All right, welcome back into the SGPN Fantasy Football Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, presented to you by Shady Rays. Go to shadyrays.com and use promo code SGPN for 50% off two plus pairs of polarized sunglasses. We're also brought to you by the Golf Gambling Podcast Tailor-Made Stealth 2-Driver giveaway. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/driver to enter today before the big drawing on April 8th. We're also brought to you by Baseball Money is Fake, our fantasy baseball podcast. Join Blake and Ryan 3 times a week and get all the player breakdowns and statistical data you need to dominate. All right, well, we're finishing up our player profiles for the evening, and we want to talk about Luke Musgrave. Make sure you like, subscribe, and check out our other episodes. We got about 35 of these up. We also got some mock drafts. Let us know what you think about the show. Let us know about your player comps and favorite players. And if someone we missed, let us know. We'll knock them out. And today we're going to talk about Mr. Luke Musgrave. And he's someone that you probably did not hear about until the draft process started, or possibly at the Senior Bowl. Brad, let's set the table for everybody.
Yeah, hey, look, so Luke Musgrave, tight end for the Oregon State Beavers. Dude was an athlete. He played multiple sports, but landed to be a tight end with them. And luckily for him, he's got a family uncle who has been coaching as an offensive coordinator for over a decade. Lots of experience inside the family at the game of football. And you hope that kind of translates. But when you look at the stats, it hasn't done it just yet. Now, there's a couple things to take into context, which we'll get in a second. But in 2020, he had 12 catches for 142 yards and 0 touchdowns. In 2021, he had 22 catches for 304 yards and 1 touchdown. And in 2022, he had 11 catches for 169 yards and 1 touchdown. And the thing to take into account when you're looking at these, 2020, a little bit of an odd year with COVID and everything else, whether or not he played, the Oregon State Beavers played, so on and so forth.
4 games.
And in 2020, right, only 4 games. And in 2022, he did have some injuries that held up his production. Now, you're looking at a guy that through 3 years had 45 catches for just over 600 yards and 2 touchdowns through 3 years of college football. With COVID in mind and with the injuries in mind this season, Dave, can you tell us what the pros and the cons are associated with Luke Musgrave so we can get a little bit of a better feel for him?
Yeah, and this guy is your size and speed freak. You know, you're looking at someone as far as a mismatch. This is it. And so, you know, this is more of your receiving tight end than an in-blocking tight end. And no, you don't have a whole lot to work with as far as, you know, a production profile. Again, 4 games, and then he had, you know, only played 2 games last year, and that was his production in 2 games. He's able to be an inline tight end as well as be a slot receiver for you, and he's able to do that because of his speed and athleticism. At 6'6", 250, he's one of the faster tight ends in the class, and he moves like a smaller player. And so, you know, at the combine, we were asking other players at the position who stood out to you at the combine. 3 different players said Luke. Like, Luke just looked like that dude. And it was because of the combination of the size and the speed. You just don't see guys at 6'6", 250 that move around like he did. And it matches what the NFL is saying. PFF has him as a 2nd-round grade. Move the Sticks has talked about him possibly getting all the way up to the end of round 1. I don't think that happens, but I do think he's an early 2nd-day pick. He goes off. Brad and I are going to do a side bet after the show. In the top 50 picks or so, we'll see what number we land on. But Luke Musgrave is that guy if you're looking for that athletic tight end to add some explosiveness to your offense. And we got Kobe Fleener as the player comp for those Colts fans that remember the good old days with Kobe Fleener. Brad would not let me put my Dallas Gollert comp on here. He said he was, you know, I forget who'd you say he was?
Mike Gesicki is who I had in here, yeah.
Yeah, I after seeing Gesicki's gritty, I just can't do that to anybody. Again, the athleticism, the vertical threat, Another comp, if you're looking for, a recent class, Greg Dulcich. This is a guy that's very athletic, got soft hands, and he can move with the ball in his hands once he's got it. The cons, obvious, production. You're projecting with him. This is an athletics traits guy that you're projecting and hoping that all these athletic traits can translate to good production in the NFL. As far as his contact, you don't have a lot again to go off of as far as production, but you also don't see a lot of plays where he's creating big plays and creating these a lot of yards after the catch. Blocking, he could be better at that. He's more of a receiving tight end. Like I said, I'd put him more in the Dalton Kincaid territory than I would, with the other guys in this class. But again, this is a guy that you're looking at a size speed combination, a jumbo receiver, a slot receiver that can play on the in line as well. This is your guy, and you're going to be able to get him in the second or third round. You're not going to have to pay up like you are for Kincaid or Michael Mayer.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he's shot up draft boards since the combine, right? I mean, he looked very, very good. Ran a 4.61. I don't believe that was the fastest 40 for tight ends, but it's pretty damn high. And you got to remember, he's coming off all of his injuries and whatnot that have kind of messed him up for the 2022 season. But you think about those two games, and he had solid production in both of those two games. So it's an interesting projection of what this year could have been for Luke Musgrave. And that's one of my biggest red flags right now is how is his preparation and his experience in college going to set him up for the NFL? Is he going to be ready? We've talked about this before, how tight end is so difficult because you got to go to multiple meetings. It's not just a position meeting. You don't just go to the tight end meeting. You got to go to the offensive line meeting. You got to go to the wide receiver meetings. How does that translate for him because of that lack of runtime in college because of injury and a COVID-riddled season? So I just have a little concerns about how long it's going to take him to kind of transition at the next level, even though he absolutely has the athletic traits to be able to do that. Just like we kind of hoped, I'd use Mike Gesicki, right? We kind of hoped Mike Gesicki coming out of Penn State was going to be able to translate, and it just never really fully came to fruition for us. So I kind of see a very similar situation here in Luke Musgrave. But to take a shot in the third round on a guy like that, that's a pretty good shot to take, right? As long as the price stays in the third round, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you're seeing that. We've done a lot of mock drafts, and that's what we're seeing for him. We're not seeing the price go up. If you see a great landing spot with, a high draft capital, you could see him move up a little bit. But, you get such a deep class at running back and receiver. I just don't see any situation where any of these tight ends really deserve to be in the first round because – I'm okay with getting, if you're like, we've had this conversation. Do you want Michael Mayer in the first? Do you want Dalton Kincaid in the second? Or do you want to wait till the third round and get Luke Musgrave or Darnell Washington or one of these other guys? So, and then you see the fourth round, you got Laporta and you got, all of your Kraft and Kuntz and all these other guys. So, I'm not a huge drafting tight ends guy because you don't get a lot of instant production. And once they get on your team, you can't trade them for anything unless they have a good week. But he is a guy that, if I can get him at the late third round, I need a tight end and I got Kelsey and I'm looking to develop somebody behind him. He's the kind of guy that I would do that for. Again, I'm higher on Musgrave. He's my tight end 3 in this class. I don't think Brad has him buried or anything like that. And, after the draft, when we see what the NFL thinks about these guys, we might shuffle those things and maybe Brad and I flip-flop. I might be way too high on him if the league ends up drafting him in the 4th or 5th round.
Yeah, he's my tight end 5 right now. Tight end 5.
All right. Well, hey, let's check in with Underdog. We got something special for all the listeners out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Underdog Fantasy is a great place to get down with fantasy and player props all year long. Underdog Fantasy has your favorite NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball daily games. Plus, they're already doing best ball drafts for the 2023 NFL season. So head over to UnderdogFantasy.com and use our promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $100. Again, that's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN.
All right. Well, as always, good luck this season.
Cheers.